Chapter 19. I did not move. Not for the hours it takes a campfire to fall from bright to coal and then to the patient red that waits for the first hand at dawn. Not for the slow pass of cloud across a sliver of moon. Not when the ground under me bled its day warmth away and the damp came in through the cloak and set up house along the spine. I lay in the leaf duff and let the world crawl over me while I watched 5 strangers do ordinary things as if ordinary still had the right to exist. 2 men. 2 women. The small one hard to read. They worked with a rhythm that said they had done this together before, but not here. They chose a low spot and pitched 3 tents in it, easy ground, poor defendability. The frames were fresh cut green, still bleeding, the cordage clean and bright, not the gray of old travel. They spoke now and then, soft and easy, and when the dark closed fully, they laughed. Not cruel. Not those little barks men used to announce themselves to each other before they hurt something weak. Laughter that didn't check its corners. They ate dried stuff from packets. No one stood watch with a weapon ready. No one turned their plate to the dark gods between bites. They made a neat little rope line and hung socks along it like flags. It was school trip energy, Jason's old word rising unasked, Boy Scouts, whatever collection of careful children that had been in another century. These 5 were the kind of people the crows would farm in daylight and not break a sweat. If I had walked out of the brush with my hands up, I think I could have taken their food and gone without anyone losing anything they couldn't spare. If I had walked out of the brush with a pipe in my hands and a thread in my mouth, I could have put them down in a half-minute and let the jungle do the rest, but who knows if they would score a lucky blow. I didn't either. They had the chance to be the same kind of bad as any other man and I would still grant them the benefit of doubt. The night grew a skin of cold. The damp went from nuisance to weight. It slid under the boar hide and under the shirt and set a shake in me I could hold back only by clenching the jaw until it ached. The shivering made the leaf litter whisper and I cursed the weakness of this body under my breath. I let the breath go slow and thin. I tucked the toes into the roots curve. The chorus said nothing, it had changed since awakening here. They were not careless enough to leave fire where it would tell the whole forest where to hunt. They banked it. One of the men brushed his teeth with a stick. The small one walked the line in a semblance of patrol. The step was light, precise, and warmed by a little dance of those odd green feet. Floppy shoes? No. Something else. A costume, or a deformity, or a choice I did not understand. They turned that way again before bed, eyes skyward for a long second, and I thought I saw a catch of light in them that was not the flame. The way a cat's eyes or a lens would glint. The campsite into sleep. One woman snored twice and then turned. Some little thing with its own business skittered over my hand and I did not move then either. The hours between midnight and the first shift of light have their own flavor. They taste of old metal and wet bark. I counted heartbeats until counting ran out and then I counted the names. When the sky began to think about lightning, the fog rose out of the low ground and made ghosts of the tents. Dawn came a few minutes shy of my dignity, shivering as I was. A long veil, then a paler band laid on the world, and then the color began to return to things. The first up was the smaller figure. They pushed out from a flap, stood on those green feet, and stretched with their hands set on their ribs. A turn of the head. A stillness I recognized from ambushes that went well. The fog had eaten most lines of sight. Not mine. They tilted like a hound catching a thread of scent. Their gaze slid past me, went away, came back. I let my eyes close to slits and thought small, the way a boy thinks small under a bed when a dad's boot comes into the room. The little one saw me. There is a moment when eyes meet that no training fixes. Something inside you stands up. That thing stood. Their head cocked a fraction and they lifted one hand. "Hey," they said, level and clear. Their voice didn't crack. A child's size and an adult's center. The tents roused it all at once. A zipper rasped, a curse, a knock of bone on pole. "What is it? Where?" The green-footed thing pointed, calm as a teacher identifying a bird in a tree. "There." I moved. Not toward them and not away in a straight line. Away and around. Get the high ground, then throw the high ground away and ghost the line through the brush where no man goes because it looks poor on the feet. I did not rise all at once. I rolled first to break the shape and then I was up and then I was gone. "Hey!" a man shouted. "Don't shoot," another said, breath fogging, as if they understood that the jungle would answer a gunshot with a list of questions too long to handle. I took a game trail I did not like and left it after 10 steps to slide under a fallen limb slick as soap. The boar hide hooked and tore and made a noise like an old door. It didn't matter now. I was already in it. The pack found every reach of low branches and slowed me down. I bent the brush with my knees and not my shins. I crossed open ground in 2 steps bounding for extra distance. The pipe rode high on my back and knocked the skull when I ducked too fast. They were fast. My feet stuttered on loam. There's found rhythm. A voice behind me called, left. He went left. Another, lighter, he doubled. He's on the ridge. They broke into a run that sounded like men who had trained with someone who cared about knees. I had misread them. Naive at the fire does not mean naive when the world moves. The small one's call cut through. No arrows. Arrows? I thought, why not guns? But had no time to reason. I cut downhill, took the slope in steps that slid and caught. A vine snagged the ankle and on instinct the pipe came around without thinking and chopped it, the cord thrumming through the pipe in my hand. I tossed mud over one shoulder with a kicking stride and my feet were encased in mud shoes of their own. I jumped wide over a patch of leaf that would have kept my foot as a souvenir. Behind me a man's stride broke and his word turned to a grunt. Shit, razor fern, watch it. The ground offered a stream bed and I took it, splashing into the cold that woke the shins with fire from all the fresh scraps and cuts. I went up the stream against its shoulder. The forest here changed a little, the underlayer of ferns giving way to low shrubs with waxy leaves. Birds rose from them in little outraged randoms and made more noise than I needed right now. Eyes. The small one called. He's still ahead. 30 yards. 40. I did not turn to see how that could be true. I took a deadfall and slid under, taking bark in the back and skin off the elbows. The pipe rang once on wood and I swallowed the curse that wanted to come up. The world smelled of soil and the private sweetness of rot. For a breath I was back in a trench, the close dark and men's breath in it with you. I was up again and moving before the memory could make decisions. The hill broke to a long bench and I ran it, the body remembering a veteran's speed even with the pack dragging at the side. The boar cloak slapped against my skin. I cut through a stand of thin trees all the same age, some old burn here once, new growth now, and used the trunks to put screens between us and to shake whatever line the green-footed watcher held on me. Slow him. A woman shouted. Nara, you're right. The small one, Nara? Popped out of brush 10 paces to my left and surprised me so cleanly I laughed. They did not smile and hood up so I could not see their face. They snapped their wrist and something hissed level with my knees. I jumped and the thing skimmed under the soles, 2 stones in a marriage flung hand fast, and smacked into a tree, wrapping it in 3 clean rounds of cord. Bolas. I hadn't seen any since the caravan days when men used bones for weights. These had fitted weights. The cord sang when it stretched. Fuck, I said to the air, and redoubled my speed. I cut right in the ground, cut left at the same time. I went down into fern and the world turned into 1,000 soft palms slapping the face. I rolled and heard feet very close. Somewhere in that second the pipe came into my hands of its own will and I made its arc around the low brush and saw a leg through the weeds. Don't, Nara started. I was already gone, sliding downslope, gliding on the leaf slick like a deer. The pipe went back to the strap. The pack banged the shoulders with each leap. The air burned sweet in the throat. The body had learned how to run for its life at 12. It did not forget now. Net. The deeper man called. Net him, Jazz? On it. Another voice answered, eager, too bright. I felt the change in the air before the thing fell. The weight of a net makes a different wind. I threw myself sideways into a tangle that looked like punishment and was rewarded with pain. The net hit the ground where I had been with a noise like a hand clapping and kicked up leaf smoke. I clawed through the thorn, let it take skin, popped out on the far side with half the bush in the cloak and kept moving. He's good, must be a native, the older woman said, with something like satisfaction. Not angry. Not afraid. Interested. Keep your eyes on him, Nara answered, calm as water. I did not understand how they were doing this. They were outpacing me in the greenery. The slope eased and I came into a stretch of low ground riddled with runnels. My ankles wanted to turn. I made them behave through each step. I took a right that any man would call wrong and shouldered through a bank of tall grass, then dropped into a trench of dark where some old uprooted tree had left a gap for me. It wasn't enough useless. I grinned at nothing and ran harder. It did not last. The jungle favors the patient and the organized. I was neither now. The cold of the night had left the joints sulky. The mud had already taxed the thighs. The weighted pack pulled at my rhythm. They split and threaded. Every time I tried to lose them along stone, one of them was already on the far side, keeping the line of sight. The small one did not run the whole time. They moved in bursts, vanished, and then were ahead again, those green feet soft and certain on places where mine made noises I would pay to take back. I angled towards sound, water ahead and down. I got there, jumped onto the round of a stone, and took one step into the current, and something wrapped the calves with a breath and the feet were no longer mine. Bolas again. Clean. High, not ankle. A good throw. I had time for one hop and the second step was a fall. I went forward hard and the pack tried to drown me. I rolled onto my hip and brought the skinner up by feel and the cord lifted on a breath. "No," Nar said from a pace away. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. It is one thing to be found. It is another to be told the rules." The word came from a mouth and that mouth was right there while I had the skinner in the hand and the cord biting into the calves all while 100 old reflexes clamored to choose for me. I put the skinner down on my own thigh and let the tip cut skin instead of line. My heart did not agree with that choice. It beat in protest so hard it tripped over itself. "Hey," the older woman said from the bank, not loud. "Easy." Someone else arrived on my other side, feet splashing, breathing too fast. "Got him." A boy not much older than me. Judging by the tone of his eager voice. I sat up as best I could with legs wrapped in the stream trying to convince me to lie down again. Hands came in from 3 directions and then addressing my glare decided better and made a circle instead. The pipe was still in my hand. No one reached for it. The small one looked at the pipe and then at my eyes. "Are you hurt?" they asked. "Not yet," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to a different throat. "That depends." "On what?" "What you think I am." Crows treated threats differently. They took that in without blinking. And it was the first time I really looked at the small one. What I saw brought memories from life as Jason roiling back to the forefront. This little creature was a classic green Martian. Their voice snapped me out of my reverie. "Hungry," they said. "And tired. And running for reasons we don't know yet." "That'll do," the older woman said. I could hear the smile without seeing it. "I can work with that." Signaling the young boy off. "Don't move," the eager boy put in, a sword now in his hand, but the blade kept pointing at the ground, a major tell of the inexperienced. The older man stood behind him and did not bother with a weapon at all. He had a coil of cord in his hand. "Cut him free or pick him up?" the man asked. Nara shook their head. "Cut him loose. He's not going to bolt with 4 of us within arm's reach." They looked at me. "Right?" "Right," I said, surprised at how much I meant it. "Knife," Nara said. I reluctantly handed over the skinner. 2 quick cuts and the line fell away in coils that tried to go downstream and didn't make it before Nara retrieved it. The blood came back into my feet in hot needles and I bit the inside of my cheek and kept the sound behind the teeth. "We're going to stand up," the older man said. "Then we're going to sit up on the bank. Then we're going to talk like people. If that's not your plan I need to know now." "It's my plan," I said. I slid the pipe back across my lap, slow. Hands could have taken it in that second. They didn't. They took a step back as one without looking at each other first. Training or time together. Not naive at all. I felt the mistake of my first reading settle in, hot and embarrassed. I wouldn't make the same mistake twice. On the bank, they gave me space. A water skin came into view and no one pushed it into my hands. They let me see it, decide for myself. I took it. It tasted like it had been boiled and then cooled and then made holy just by being present. The boy, Jas, couldn't stop staring at the cloak. "That a boar?" he asked. "Yes." He nodded like that was worth points in a game he played in his head. "What level?" "High enough," I said. Curtly mistrusting them. It did not help that I was naked save for the cloak by now. The older woman crouched. She had hair bound up in a band that kept trying to slip because the morning's routine had been interrupted. Lines at the eyes that came from sunlight and laughter, not smoke. "You got a name, kid?" she asked. I did, and a dozen other names that men had got around to giving me without asking. I picked one that still fit. "Sel," I said. "Good," she said curtly. "I'm Mara. This is Talon. Jas you heard. Mina." She nodded to the other woman, slight, with a scar under the lip that made her mouth look like it thought before it spoke. "And Nara," she finished, as if the small one needed no introduction and she would be right. Nara watched the trees while the others watched me. Their attention moved like light, here, then there, always covering the new corner with those large black eyes. The green feet were not shoes. Mara pointed with her chin at the pipe. "You going to keep a hold on that while we talk?" "I am," I said. "All right," she said, as if the answer had been the only one that made sense to her. Talon spoke for the first time, voice like a man who had used it to teach and to settle fights and to sing once in a while when he forgot he could. "We're not here to hurt you," he said. "We're looking for somebody." "Are you?" I said, and the words came out drier than I meant. "Not you," Jas blurted. "Unless you're him and then it is you. But probably not. You're not dressed like..." He shut his own mouth with his teeth. "Like what?" I asked. "Like an adventurer," Mina said. "Like us." I nodded at their tents in the direction behind us. You pitch low, I said. You hang food where beasts can get it if they but try. You leave your lines visible. You laugh loud in a place that will echo and alert. You're not adventurers, you are travelers. Mara smiled with half her mouth. We're learning, she said. Like most people on the northern side of the continent here on Dungeon Reach. Dungeon Reach is the name of the planet we're on? I asked the group. They nodded in group assent. Nara moved a fraction closer, the eyes on my face and not my hands. Why were you watching us? Because you were there, I said and sighed. Because I haven't seen any people who weren't trying to kill me in a long time. Because I thought you might be crows. What are crows? Jas asked. Nothing you want to become, I said. Talon's mouth tightened and then smoothed. He crossed his arms like a man choosing not to argue out loud with a younger man who lives in his chest. We don't have to ask much, he said to Mara. But we should ask this. You alone? Yes, I said. By choice? Mina asked. No, I said. She nodded like she had expected that. Chapter 20. They let me breathe. That was the first decent sign. Nobody rushed in to pat me down or take the pipe from my hands. They kept the circle and watched the trees and watched me and let the river talk over the parts nobody needed to fill. Mara glanced once at Nara and then at me. You sure you're alone? Yes. Been alone long? Talon asked. I don't know what counts as long here. Jas shifted on his feet. He had too much energy to store. Where'd you come from? He blurted. You talk like... I don't know. Like those old saga feeds my granddad had. It's cool. Just, different. Different to you, I said, brushing him off. Mina crouched, elbows on her knees, eyes taking stock. You don't have an orientation badge. I don't know what that is. I admitted. That drew Nara's full attention. They stepped closer by a careful inch, green feet planted on slick rock without slip. The eyes were a polished black that held the light without giving it back. No orientation, they said, almost to themselves. Their head tilted, then again. But you have Rizal tags. What tags? Nara didn't answer me with words. Their gaze moved in little skips, like following a list only they could see. Bard. Level 12, they said slowly. Path. Threnody. Specialization. Discordant. Each word softer than the last. But, no orientation. No city of record. No mentor. How are you even registered? I looked at the pipe in my hands and then at Nara. The chorus kept score, I said. Even when nobody else did. Mara and Talon exchanged a look. It was quick, a breath only, but I knew the shape of a talk that didn't need words. Okay, Mara said, sliding past the topic and settling into the new shapes of the day. Cell, you've got a class and levels and even a path. Do you know what any of that means? It means I sing and things happen, I said. Sometimes not to me. Sometimes to men who need to burn. Jas smiled despite himself. That's the best class summary I've ever heard. Mina's mouth wanted to be a smile and after hearing my response decided not to. Orientation is the thing you're missing, she said matter-of-factly. Everybody gets it. It's training. A handshake with the node. The legal bit so you can buy and sell in towns. Safety rails. Permits. It's everything. Everything, I repeated. The word fit my mouth like a radiation sore. Nobody offered me any guide rails. Nara's brow creased. Where did you start, Cell? Chandurax, I said. That pulled the quiet in tight. Even the river seemed to lean in to hear the answer it already knew. That old burned hellscape? Jas said, half laughing like a boy saying a campfire monster name to prove he wasn't a child. That's a story world. Off-network. You can't have started there. Last child of Chandurax, I said, because the network had chosen to make a joke in very clean letters and then nail it to my head. The node told me that this morning. And then gave me presents. Mara's eyes softened at the edges in a way she probably didn't mean me to see. Cell, she said quietly. I'm sorry. She believed that I believed what I was saying. Don't be, I said. Save it for people you can still free from the crows. Talon kept his arms crossed, not hostile, wary, just containing himself. You came in on what? I was on a ship. Not mine. It didn't live long. Then I took an escape pod. The pod threw me onto this world. Talon nodded once, accepting a madness that spilled from my mouth as a fact he could recognize. That would do it, he said. The network reconciles what it can when you finally show up. You must have had a ledger backed somewhere. Dormant. 7 years, I said. And then 178 and 0. Everyone was silent with the weight of shock. Nara studied my face as if there were a little text in the corners only they could read. No orientation, they said again, to make sure they hadn't me seen. How are you alive out here? Hiding. Eating what doesn't try to eat me first. I don't know what you would call it here, but it's been very peaceful. Mina sipped from the water skin, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, and passed it along. Most natives don't come out this far, she said. Falmore jungle is a cultivated zone. People take excursions along the edges, a day or two, a week if they're rich and the guide's patient. Deeper than that is for work. She tipped her chin toward Talon and Mara, or for leveling and essence farming. She nodded at Jas, who grinned as if someone had just said his favorite meal. What's a native? I asked. By your use. Talon answered. Teacher's voice. A person born on a reserved world. Some families sign a long-term contract with a governor to live the local story. Farmers in old stone valleys. Sailors along curated coasts. The network pays stipends and protects the boundaries. It's not fake, he added, as if this mattered. It's a way to live without the noise of advanced corpo life. Role-playing? I almost asked to just myself. Mara shrugged. It's a real life, she countered. Different rules for different regions, but they are afforded citizenship in a world like this. She pointed at the jungle. Most planets are nowhere this nice. Natives avoid it though, Mina said. They avoid real dungeons too. They call us tourists until we save their cousins from a swamp bull and then we're heroes for a week. Jas bobbed his head. Essence pays best, though. We're here for a bounty, he remembered. And for drops. We got an elixir mix waiting at home that needs fire aspect. Falmore is good for heat-aligned sacks and venom lines. Bounty, I said. Mara nodded. Open contract from Grey Step and the conservator's office in the Verneth Vale group, she said. A man murdered 3 native prospectors near the Prince's Teeth and fled into Falmore. Governor posted an easy tag so everybody passing through keeps their eyes open. What's the crow's name? I asked. Dullan or Dullan with an O, Jas said, eager to be helpful. Black coat. He carried a mirror blade, they said. That and a hand brand from some guild. He's not high level. Slippery, though. Is that what a crow is, a murder? Jas asked with the curiosity of youth. That's not me, I'm no crow, I said. It didn't fix the itch that ran along the spine at the phrase. No, Nar said calmly. Not you. Mara looked over my bare, mud-painted legs, the boar cloak, the pipe scarred with old use and new. You don't read like a murderer who fled a caravan massacre last week, she said. You read like someone who's been living on carcass and water for months. Years, I said. It's a god's joke. Talon eased down onto a rock. He had the joints of a runner. The movement was mindful, not careful, which told me as much about him as the way he'd stood behind Jas without a weapon. Sel, he said. It's clear you've been alone a long time, and judging by the state of those scars where you came from was a real hellscape. I wouldn't trust the first people I met deep in the jungle either. So let's invite him to the party for now. That way Sel can know we will not harm him, and then we can return to Greystep and you'll be able to complete orientation there and then be on your way. But until then it's best we move as a group. What do you say? He reached out to me for a handshake, and as I reached out to shake his hand the chorus prompted my mind. Party invite, 5/6, 6/6, party leader, Talon, Y/N. I hesitated for a moment and then hit the mental yes. What happens if I don't do it? Orientation, I mean. You can't transact, Mina said. No bank. No vendors. No contracting. No lodgings. No waygates. Some settlements won't even let you cross a threshold. Some will, Mara added. But your prices will get a feral tax. And you'll spook people. The wilderness is a scary place for natives. Townsfolk hate surprises. I can live without a town, I said. The words came too fast and I let them stand even if they weren't true. You can, Talon said. For a while. But you won't like the first night you get sick in the rain without a roof or friend. Or the first time a hunter reads you as a problem because your system's ledger won't talk to his own. Jas nodded, eager, trying to help with what he knew. Orientation is quick, he said. It takes like 30 minutes. They walk you through a bunch of boring stuff like paths, permissions, and local law. You get a Rizel tag and a census baseline. They leave and comp you a meal if you joke with the clerk. I don't joke, I said, then thought to myself and added. Not well. Nara had been silent for a while. Now they asked, where are your weapons, Sel? Aside from that pipe. I touched the boar cloak where the skinner hid. I have a knife, I said. I have an instrument. I nodded toward the pack where the wheel fiddle rode swaddled. I have my voice. That counts, Nara said. More than you think. Discordant bard. The title came off their tongue like a diagnosis and not quite a kindness. Never seen that before, it makes people uneasy when you sing? They should be, I said. That's not how most bards start, Jas put in, half grinning. Usually it's tavern songs and buffs. Not, he twirled a finger by his temple. Sonic dread. Jason loved taverns, I thought, very low in my inner voice, and the memory hit a rib I hadn't meant to show. We didn't have them where I grew up, I said to the group. Mara stood and stretched, groaning under the work of the morning we burned. Sel, she said, come back up to camp. We'll feed you. We can point you to a waypost signal if you want a town. Or we walk you as far as the ridge. After that, your call. I don't want to take your food, I said. We've got plenty, Jas said quick. Rations are cheaper than guilt. Charity was not something I was akin to. Nara watched my face while the others talked. You can keep the pipe on you, they said. And the knife. But don't play the instrument. I wasn't planning to. Good. We climbed to the bank and up the little slope and into the clearing where they'd made a home for the night. The tents sagged from the fog. Socks still hung like muted flags. They worked easy around me, no show, no sudden movements meant to prove their lack of fear. Mara doused what was left of the cook fire and laid out new flame kits with a thrift that told me she had a frugal streak. Jas offered me a tin of something that had been processed. Dried fruit, he said. I took a strip and watched him eat one. The smell was a long-forgotten savory sweet. Something lost to the ways of Chandurax. I let it sit on the tongue until it remembered its sweet could be a happy flavor. Thank you, I said. With an earnest rattle to my words. You don't have to thank me for fruit, he said, embarrassed by gratitude, or by my age in my eyes. I do, I said. It's been a while since I had anything I didn't pry out of a carcass. Mina poured water. You said crows back there, she said. What are they? Slavers, I said. Dressed in the skins of other men. Hunters of people. They sell people like livestock. Slavers, Talon repeated, a muscle ticking in his jaw. Yes. Not here, Mara said. Not in Verneth Vale's reach. You'll see petty cruelty and dumb greed and the usual stupidities. But not that. Not out in the open. Nara handed my skinner back. Sharp, they observed. And used. It's honest, I said. They nodded. Keep it where I can see your hands. I set it on the cloak beside me within touch and within sight. Sel, Mara said, what's your plan? Walk to the sea, I said. With no hesitation. This map says there's a port. If the map isn't lying to me. Jas perked. Grey Step, he said. That's where we're heading after a loop. It's safe. Safe, I repeated, tasting the word to see if it had gone sour. What counts as safe? Walls, Mina said. Guards. Markets. Baths. Showers, Jas corrected, grinning. An orientation kiosk, Talon added dryly. Food that isn't dried and a place to sleep that isn't a tree. All that, Mara said. And a lot of people who will look at you the way you're looking at us. So. Maybe you come in under a hood and let us vouch for you. I shook my head. Not yet. Why? Nara asked, not unkind. Because the last time I let myself be carried by others they all died. That landed. None of them rushed to fill the quiet that followed. We're already risking our lives, friend, Talon said at last. I know, I said grimly. Mara clapped her hands once, not loud. Then we do this. We eat. We pack. We walk together for the morning. If you want to peel off, you peel. If you want to stick, you stick. If you want to shadow us at a distance and pretend you don't like company, feel free. But don't wander into our line of fire if we get something ugly. Ugly, Jas echoed, bright with the hope of a fight. Don't worry Jas, you're ugly enough, Mara said, and gave him a look that took the edge off his smile. We ate in that way people do when they're not saving something for later. Their food had salt. My hands stopped shaking without my permission. The chorus, quiet and content with the network's hum in this place, rested like a dog on my feet. Mina pointed with her chin. That pipe. It's not just a pipe. No, I said. I think it used to be. Now the network decided to give it something extra. Everything does that, Talon said. You use a thing long enough and it picks up a name it didn't have. People too. People more than things, Mara said. She stood, rolling her shoulders under the straps of her pack. Let's move. They broke camp in a clean, quick way that left the place more honest than they'd found it. Socks wrung and stowed. Pack lines tightened. Tent frames down, cords in loops, ash scattered and buried, stones turned back to the faces they'd had before the fire. Nara did a last walk of the perimeter, eyes on the ground as much as the trees. They might have been measuring me as much as tracks. I stood and expected someone to make a point of the pipe. No one did. They'd already measured that part. "Which way?" I asked. "Down the stream until it widens," Mara said. "Then cut east for the ridge spur and follow it until the top falls away. There's a waypost marker there. If you don't want to be seen by the node governors, don't go past the third sun scratch." "What's a sun scratch?" I asked. "Stone with a notch that only casts true in sunlight," Talon said. "You'll see them if you slow down and look." We moved. The jungle had its own clock. Cicadas pressed their beads of sound into it. Birds complained and took flight. Our feet made the soft conversation of people trudging on wet decay. Jas drifted near me and then away, as if proximity were a game he was trying to learn the rules to. He had gotten a lot closer since loaning me loose-fitting pants. "You really killed a boar alone, as a bard?" he said finally, unable to let the thought rest. "Yes. With a pipe. And a knife." He whistled low. "What level?" "High enough," I said again, and he laughed and let the line go. Mina walked at my other shoulder. "Your words are hefty, with that dialect people might take offense." "I don't know how else to talk." "It's fine," she said. "Just don't sing at us unless you warn me first." "The hairs on my arms keep climbing," she joked. "That's the jungle," I said. "That's you," she said back, and didn't sound angry about it. Nara ranged ahead and rarely fell back, touching the trunks, reading bruises on fern, listening to lines of air I didn't have the right organs to hear. Mara kept us in time with a look and a lifted finger. By the time the sun burned a hole in the top of the canopy, we had covered more ground than I would have alone with my map shard and my stubbornness. We stopped where the stream hooked under a tangle of roots like an arm. Talon pointed with the thumbnail and named 3 plants that would make a man sick and 1 that would save him from the first 3. I filed the lesson like food in a pack. "Essence," Jas said suddenly as we ended our break, remembering again, as boys do. "You ever pulled a sack, Sel?" "No." "Want to watch?" he asked, bright and proud. "We don't waste. We take it quick and clean and leave the rest for the jungle. That's the rule." "I'll watch," I said. We didn't find anything worth taking that first hour. Deer sign ahead, but light, and Talon waved us off. "Not worth the trouble," he said. "We're not starving." "Don't spook the herds." "Who's starving?" Jas asked. "You if you keep shouting at the birds," Mina said. He shut his mouth with a grin that promised he would shout again later. We came to a wash of rock that looked like old bones and crossed it one at a time so the fauna wouldn't be alerted. A while later Nara lifted a hand. We froze. They listened, eyes unfocused. "Boar," they said finally. "Downwind. Alone." Mara looked at me. "Sel," she said. "You want to sit this one out or in?" "I don't need meat," I said. "I've got some." "You do what you came to do." We circled. The boar was in a low trough where the stream had widened into a saucer and left mud to cool the day's temper. Big. Scarred. One tusk broken, the other long enough to make a hole in a man. Its hide shone where the wet had laid it down. Steam rose out of the flanks each time it grunted with pleasure at its own wallow. Mara watched the wind first. She pinched a tuft of grass, let it drift. It slid toward us, not the boar. She shook her head, pointed with 2 fingers, fanned us wide. "Drive, not spook," she breathed. Talon, left flank. Mina on point with the ash spear. Jas, net ready, not high, hamstring height. Nara, you've got the rap. Sel, stay back and anchor if we need you. We moved. Slow and low. The mud's reek hit our own. Nara ghosted ahead 2 body lengths, those strange green feet soundless in the damp. Mina palmed a spear grown pale with use. Talon slid his pack off and drew a short hewing axe, the edge clean, the haft wrapped where the hand knows it will bite. Jas unrolled a net from his shoulder, weights stitched in at the corners, cord waxed to shed water. "Hold," Nara whispered, and we froze. The boar's ear flicked. A fly had made the mistake of landing. It shuddered, rolled a little, and gave us its right side. When it settled again, Nara tipped 2 fingers. "Now." Mina stepped in first, quiet as the point of rain. She set the spearhead to the back of the shoulder and pushed. Not a lunge, pressure. The boar jolted as the ash spear found the meat and slid under hide toward the heart. It came up roaring out of the wallow like a thrown log, mud flying in a sheet that slapped my face cold. "Net," Mara snapped. Jas threw low and true. The weight spit around the forelegs and tangled the knee. The boar stumbled, caught itself with a heave that showed the old strength still living in it. "Rap," Mara said, already moving. Nara's bolas hissed once and took the hind leg's midcalf. The cord snapped tight. The boar pitched, hit the bowl of mud with enough force to send a dull shock into my soles. It was up again in a breath that said it had no plans to die for our convenience. It spun toward Jas, picked him as the softest thing in reach. Anchor, I told myself, and went. The pipe came off my shoulder into both hands with a memory older than this body. I stepped in on the boar's blind side, kept the broken tusk at my hip, and brought the pipe down along the ridge of the skull where the plates meet. The sound it made lived in the wrists. The boar's back leg stuttered. Mina drove again. Talon came in from the left and chopped low, the axe digging for the hem above the hook where leverage lives. The blade bit. The boar screamed and the sound had heat in it, like a forge drawing a breath. It went for me then, feral and desperate. I took a half step, felt the tusk pass my thigh without contact, and put the pipe across its snout and shoved, turning the head. The old broken tusk plowed mud instead of me. Nara was already there, a flash of cord in those small hands, and the second rap caught over the first. The front leg went out from under it. It crashed and thrashed, flinging mud, ripping cord, trying to get enough ground for one straight run that would end somebody. Finish. Mara barked. Mina's spear sank the last handspan. The sound went flat in the chest and then out. Talon's axe rose and fell twice more and then the boar shuddered and stilled. Its ribs hitched while the heart stuttered then stopped. We all stood there a breath longer than we needed, taking it all in. No waste, Mara said, not as law but as habit. We rolled a body to the good side with a grunt and a groan. Mina cut the throat clean where the jaw joins the neck and held the head high so the blood ran easily and didn't pool in the meat. The stream took it in a red thread and broke it to pink where the shallows riffled. Flies came quickly. Nara waved them off with a palm frond until the twitching stopped. Nara worked the chest with a small sharp and a care you only learn from someone who showed you an excellent foundation. There, they murmured, mostly for Mina and Jas. Not the stomach. Not the lung. Low and forward. If you cut it dirty the whole body remembers and turns. See the sheen? A film lay under the wet, a membrane with a heat to it you could feel without touching. Nara eased a hand under, slid 2 fingers around something that didn't want to be seen. They drew out a sack the size of a man's fist, translucent and veined, the color of cooled ember. It pulsed once in the air. Heat aspect, monosac, Nara said. Low to mid. Good color. No damage. Too bad there's no core. Jas held out a jar lined with a pale felt that looked grown, not woven. Nara laid the sack in as if it could break, sealed it with a twist that locked itself, and the node chimed in my head like a small and proper bell. Sack acquired, Falmord palmetto ironback, mature, / heat, L3. Mara grunted in time with the chime she couldn't hear and wiped her hands clean on a rag sheet already stained beyond use. Hide, she said. We started the long cuts. Talon's axe did the first work, then he passed to my skinner when the cut had to follow curves the axe would ruin. The knife was an old workhorse. It walked the seam between hide and meat in a line my fingers had known in other lives and other worlds with different animals. The boar's skin came away heavy and worth the carrying. Mina and Jas salted the flesh we meant to keep and packed it tight in wraps that breathed. The rest we set on a lattice of peeled sticks to let the air and ants take what they wanted. Fat, Mina reminded him, practical as rain. We'll need lamps for 2 nights and soap by the time we hit the ridge. Mara was already coiling the saved cord and laying the net to dry on a flat rock. Sell, she said, you want a strip? Jas pried at the broken tusk and it came free with a wet bop. He held it up, pleased despite the stink. Boot heel, he said, already seeing shapes inside it. I took one, not because I was starving but because my body remembered when it's been told no too long and this was a yes I could live with. It was clean, salted right, no hair, no grit. I chewed and listened to Nara show Jas where to cut next time if the sack sat deeper, and to Talon naming the bones and the purpose each could serve in camp. When we were done the place read like a tidy fight. Blood gone to the stream. Gut hole filled and damped. Hide rolled and strapped. Fat in a skin. Sack sealed. Net dry and folded. We left the rest for the jungle. Something would be along to argue with the flies. Mara looked once at the wall the boar had loved and then at the arc of churned mud we'd written across it with our need. Looks like it's time to keep going. We shouldered the weight and slid back into the green. The world closed behind us the way it does when the jungle is thick. I was glad to have helped these people that way. It didn't feel like mercy. It felt like work well done with nothing owed.